I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Past the Present podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest. Listen, people, I use this word a lot, but in this moment, it's very special. This guest right here is very special, and I'm gonna tell you why. This guest, and please bear with me as I run through all your credentials. Today's guest has a PhD in cybersecurity leadership, a DBA in quality systems management, MBA in management, MBA in human resource management, BS in criminology, certifications that I can go all day, over 90 publications, including 100 scholar publications, multiple books written. Let me tell you, people, this is Dr. Burton, two, not one, but two doctrines. We are honored, we are humbled to sit here and talk to the very special guest, the one and only Dr. Sharon Burton. Welcome to the Past the Present podcast, man. How are you doing today?
Doing just wonderful, just great, and glad to be on today.
It's an honor to have you on. We're here to talk about the two books that you have written. I started on one of your books, but I want to get more detail from you and just learn more about the book and what inspired the books, what inspired you to write about the books. But before we get into the books, I want to learn a little bit more about you, Dr. Burton. What inspired you to want to be so educated, to have such a passion for education?
Well, I grew up learning that learning was fun. I was always told that learning was fun, and I grew up in the middle of the civil rights era, and where Dr. King always talked about it's important to be somebody. And the senior citizens of the time, they would always repeat, when you grow up, you want to be somebody. So it started, in kindergarten, good grades, K through 12, good grades. And the aspiration was you must go to college. That is how you get to be somebody. So I went to college and, majored in criminology at Florida State University and moved to the metropolitan DC area and saw that people were doing it. And I knew then that I was going to keep going step by step until I got to the point that I could fully reach back and help others aspire to where they wanted to be.
Absolutely, you have done that with all your publications. I've been going through your list of publications. I mean, it would literally take me all day long to see to go through all the accomplishments that you contributed. And I'm not lying, people. Please Google Dr. Sharon Burton if you think I'm joking. Like the list is crazy. I was going through multiple websites and just it was never ending. The publications, the new book that we're going to talk about today, has great ratings on Amazon. It's doing very well. The reviews on it has been incredible, inspiring, and shows that you have been doing just that, reaching back and touching people's lives in an inspirational way and helping people find their happiness, their joy, their purpose, and showing them that they can accomplish things. Now, you talked about growing up in, we're going to just talk about this a little more. I know we're going to get into the book, but I just want to talk about it a little more because I'm intrigued right now. You talked about growing up in the civil rights era, and I noticed one of your main places you work into, one of your main subjects is diversity. What was it like growing up in the civil rights era as a Black person?
Well, I would say it was definitely very interesting, and depending on where you were, was how you were received. So some of the points I can remember was at that time, there was diverse waiting rooms.
Mm.
So when you went to the doctor, there was the colored waiting room and there was the white waiting room. And in this little town that my grandmother lived in, that rule was solid. Nobody crossed the rooms. So the colored waiting room was a little teeny weeny room. The other room was huge. And most of the time we were sitting on top of each other in the colored waiting room. But then about 2 hours down the road in this other little small town, the rule was not as I'm going to say as hard and fast. My birth mother lived in that town, and then in that town, now I'm going to say she was the only one that crossed over and sat into the other room, she and I. But Um, After she finished high school, she went joined the military, and I think it was that military training that she had. And being out in California and different places, that just gave her a different mindset. So when she came back to the South, she was no longer going to sit in that little bitty room. So she tested the rule, and in that city, uh, nobody told her to move. So she and I would be the only two sitting over there. So I remember there was a time I wanted to get water, and I almost drank out of the wrong water fountain. There were two separate water fountains. So it was definitely interesting. It was a learning period. My grandmother was always making sure that I was well read. We learned about stuff in school, learned about things in Sunday school. So I understood what the movement was about, and I understood that part of that movement was education.
Mm.
That was a major part of rising above the status quo. And I understood that there was an old song they used to sing at the church. It was called A Charge to Keep I Have.
Mm.
That was my charge, to rise above the status quo and to be the best that I could be, and to reach back and to pull others forward to help them do it also.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest inspirations in writing, I want to, this is being formed as a question. I know it's more of a comment, but one of your biggest inspirations of writing, I'm guessing, is to pull people forward, to reach back and to pull people forward to find their greater purpose. Am I correct?
You are absolutely correct. So you will find that my all of my books have a purpose, and it's to help people advance to a different level, to understand that thing they may not understand.
Mm. And once first, before we move on, I want to talk about your grandma for one quick second. I want to say thank you to your grandma and to you as well for challenging the rules in place as far as putting us in separate rooms and not allowing us to putting us in smaller weight rooms and not allowing us to drink our water fountain. For the younger people, I think we're getting as time goes by, we're getting further and further away from the realities that we lived in when there was a time where we were separated, when there was times we couldn't go into libraries were segregated, where you couldn't go into certain parts of the library and get certain books and so many good books. And nowadays we have, such an entitlement because we can do this now and we don't have these separations. We don't have the segregation that exists, and people are moving farther away from it and forgetting, all the sacrifices that your grandmother made during the civil rights and many other Black people made, so that we can sit here right now and we can do what we're doing. We can have this conversation and we can read your books, Dr. Sharon Burton, and they can be read in the white section, the Black section. That doesn't exist anymore. I think it's very important just to highlight and to thank you and your grandmother for your contributions to the civil rights movement. It definitely had effect on all of our lives, whether we know it or not. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so let's talk about the books. Okay, so I'm not sure which one you want to get into first. So we're going to start with we have former guest on the show, person I worked with for a little while, and you interviewed me for the book, and it was about Dr. Twinbee Brown. So I want to start with, how did that come about that you started to the process of wanting to write or being asked to write Dr. Twinbee Brown's memoir? Is that what it is?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. How did
Right.
that start?
So I actually got a call from someone from my church who said that our team is looking to get someone to write a book about the Dr. Twinbee Brown. And I think you are the one to do it. And
Mm.
I said, well, I know who he is. And I said, and I agree with you. And it was no long conversation. I said, I will do it. I think that I have been developed and brought full force and forward to be able to take on that project. It's a little bit different than academic writing, but in my book about how to move people forward, I said, it's technically the same concept, except we're going to talk about a person, and we're going to talk about how he moved people forward and how he worked with the masses. So when I did academics, I might do semi-structured interviews, I might do focus groups, and I just cross-related it. I said, you're just going to reach out to ask him, who is the circle? Reach out to that circle, organize questions, and the key is getting started. And every conversation will take off a little bit differently. You allow the people to move in the circle of which they were in with Dr. Brown. And it has been wonderful. Even with talking with you, your chapter will be different from others' chapters because your experience is different. And what I like is you brought forward a different generation of working with Dr. Brown. And what I like is he continues to work across generations. And he is someone who is standing in that mission of bringing people forward. And the what's exciting about it, he's been doing it over 70 years.
Yes.
And that is called unrelenting dedication to the cause.
Yes.
And when I was asked to do it, I said, I certainly will, because being able to move like that, to stay dedicated to a mission for that long, that's what I want to do. I'm going to emulate that in my space.
Absolutely. And I'm the same thing. Like talking to him and sitting down, having a conversation on even one interview just was such an inspiring conversation, learning about him. And I'm going to learn a lot more about him through your book, as well as many of us are once we read your book, because like you said, it covers multiple different facets of his story and his inspirations and his relationships with other people. But one of the things that stood out to me about him was the fact of his relationship with older people and how he not only continued that relationship from a younger age. Even now, he still continues that work. And like you said, 70 years and he's still reaching. And we talk about reaching back. Dr. Brown definitely still reaching back, trying to still reach to the younger generation to try to teach them through workshops, video workshops to teach them how to work media, the basics on how to get started in media. And it's incredible work. And it's very incredible that you guys are kindred spirits in ways it was meant to be, how connected you guys are and the type of work you do, that you are the person that's writing his book. And I know in private conversations, he glows about you. I mean, me and him have many conversations. He talks about you. And he's like, and one of the things, I'm just going to say this, I know I don't want to make this a long conversation, but one of the things he spoke about was like Dr. Burton's just dedication to doing this. And it was a lot that went on. I think when you first had a conversation about it, COVID kicked in, COVID shut everything down. He was like, but she didn't give up. She didn't stop. Her resilience with wanting to get this project done, her commitment to getting this project done meant so much to him just in private conversations. When he mentions your name, he lights up when he mentions your name, and he's so appreciative to what you're doing. And I'm speaking from personal experiences and just one-on-one conversations we had about it, that it really means a lot to him that you're taking on this project. And I don't think with just me getting to know you, I don't think it would have been a better person to do this project. I'm not just saying that because you're here, just getting to know what I know about you and getting to talk to you, the perfect person to write this book.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Now, my next question is to you. I'm interested in this. Now, you asked me when you interviewed me, you asked me my experiences with Dr. Brown and who I thought he was. I'm going to flip the tables now, Dr. Bird. I'm going to flip the tables on you because you put me on the spot. So now I'm putting you on the spot. Who is Dr. Twin B Brown to you? Tell me who he is based on your experiences, your talking to him.
Okay. He fits into numerous categories.
Okay.
One, he's a leader. He is someone who is dedicated to the cause. He is a teacher. He is a mentor, and he is a coach. you can have a general conversation with him. And each time I learn from that conversation. And I am just amazed that I was like, wow, I learned something new today. And all I was calling to do was say hello. So he
Yes,
feels all of those realms. And when I talk to different people, I hear people call out the different categories. And, um, some of them are much younger, some of them are much older, but it doesn't matter. It seems as though he is gifted with the conversation of sharing, guiding, and leading in numerous directions. And you would first think, oh, it's just in the broadcast business. As I'm interviewing people in the book, they've told me how he came up with ideas to help their business along that they never thought of,
yes,
and how his idea helped propel them to where they needed to be. So I think he is just, this is his calling. Everyone has a calling, and this was his calling, and he stayed true to it.
absolutely, he did. He's still committed to his calling, still
Yes.
doing his own, even in his older age. And it's just amazed me. One of the things that amazed me about him is how sharp he still is. I'm like, look, I told him,
Yes.
I said, I hope I'm as sharp as you are when I get to your age because your mind, I'm telling you, is sharp as a number two pencil during test time. I'm telling
Yes.
you, he's on point. He knows he's very coherent. He's there. He's there in that conversation, and
Yes.
he's he's willing to share all of his knowledge, wisdom, the experience that he shared freely. He will share everything with you and will definitely assist you with whatever you need. He actually assisted on connecting me and you, which I'm truly grateful for. This was a privilege and honor for me to be connected to you, Dr. Burton. See, he's working even here. Look, he at work right now.
That's right.
But
And likewise, and likewise.
yes. So, when is the book? I know you're still. I think you're still working on the book. Is the book going to be released this year, next year?
I
When?
know
When are you
it's
thinking?
definitely going to be next year. We're dedicated toward the first quarter of next year. I am calling people back to get some more interviews in, and it's not just the interviews. We're going to start from day one. We're going to start
Okay.
from his early years in Daytona Beach, Florida, talking about the upbringing he had with his grandparents. We're going to talk about, do you know that this gentleman used to do work for Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, of the woman that started BCC? He
Yes.
actually attended her technical school.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So we're going, you're going to learn little bits and pieces. Him being the first licensed jockey of his age in Central Florida, his working at WELE, some of the stars he helped bring forward.
Yes.
Who you like? Oh my goodness, he helped that person, and I'm not going to say the name, so you'll have to read the book to get it. But many of the superstars that we know,
hmm
he had a hand in helping develop them in their younger years.
Absolutely. And people who are in current leadership positions, whether through political as well as others, he had helped them. And you will be surprised by how many people this man touched in his lifetime.
Yes,
Has he touched and influenced and inspired and assisted with them getting to where they are, where they can assist and help other people. But we can't give you too much information about Dr. Twin B. Brown's story because you're going to have to go buy the book if you want all the information. So when Dr. Burton releases the book, I encourage you to go out and purchase it. You will not be disappointed with hearing Dr. Quinby Brown's story because it's much more than just him reaching back. It's so much more. His story is so powerful. It's going to teach you about overcoming the odds, overcoming situations in your life, and give you a different perspective and a point of view on your life. Because this is going to segue into our next topic about the next book. But saying I can accomplish things. I can do things and not be held down by your current situation, your current environment, your current circumstances. When you read that book, I guarantee you, you're going to see in yourself that, oh, I can do this. My current
Yes.
circumstances does not say that I have to stay here, regardless of what's happening around me, my family, what happened in my life. What other people treat me or see me does not affect how I can exist and what I can and can't do. So I'm telling you and I'm encouraging you, please go check out this book when it's released. And when Dr. Burton let us know it's going to be released, I will be uploading it to our social media, as well as I will mention on the podcast to let you guys know when that book is available and where you can purchase it from. So I want to get to the next book because my wife, I know she's watching, she's going to be watching this and rubbing her hands because she can't wait to get to this subject. Because when I told her about what you wrote about, she was like, oh, I need this book. So the name of the next book is we want to talk about is Overeating, my shift to reflective actions generating positive results. What made you come up with this book? It's such a powerful title. What inspired this book?
Right. That book had a interesting inspiration. I actually had fallen while I was in New Hampshire and crushed both of my knees.
Mm,
Ended up having knee replacement, but at the rehabilitation center, one of the doctors said, I was reading about you and I was reading your story. He says, I see your academic background. He said, but what really intrigued me was how much weight you've lost.
mm,
And I said, yeah, anybody can do it. He says, no. He
no.
says, I'm a doctor. He says, I have people struggling with what to do, how to do. He said, and the fact that you've lost this amount of weight, he said, I think you need to tell this story. So about 6 visits later, he kept on me, you need to tell it. So my daughter had come to the center and she was there and he was talking to her saying, you need to tell your mom, she needs to write about this. And at that point, I said, you know what? I'll do it. I'll do it. And I said, I'm going to think about how. I said, but it's going to happen. And he said, I'm going to tell you all the complaints I get from my patients. And that became a light bulb.
Mm,
So I put together an email and I sent it out to a bunch of friends. And I said, if you saw a book about this, what is it that you want to know differently? And they said, we don't want no fluff. We want the truth. Because a lot of books are written and they give you these big stories, but they don't really get down in the weeds. I
mm-hmm,
said, okay, I got it. So then I said, how would I introduce this? Well, um, about 2016, I actually wrote a book transitioning to I can from I can't.
mm-hmm,
And it had a list of stories of everyone, of different people who made a positive move, whether it was in healthcare, whether it was in education. There's a story about a math teacher who struggled in math, but how she put a time and action plan together of learning math. And would you know, her first job teaching out of college was a math class.
wow.
uh, there's a story about a gentleman who was from California who talked about how he rose up out of the Compton area and got away from the gangs. But it's all about putting forth a mindset to do something different with your life. So that book became the name of the series,
Okay, break down.
transitioning to
There we
I
go.
can from I can't. So I then pull this as the series title, and from there I came with the overeating book. So this book um, is a series from the transitioning to I can from I can as is written on the front, and it covers eating from soup to nuts. It talks about your up periods. It talked about your down periods. One of the things I talk about is don't allow people to get into your head. Many times I was in the struggle. I talk about the struggle and the battle because it is when you're trying to make it happen, and how you will get little remarks like, oh, come on, go get this piece of cheesecake. You've been doing okay. But you know that cheesecake is part of the addiction, because what people don't realize is when you overeat and you put on the an amount of weight where the doctor starts to put you in the overweight, the obese, and the morbidly obese categories, it has now become an addiction. So I focused on this, and how do you battle it back? What do you first start to do? Well, you first got to tell yourself the same way someone on alcohol, you just got to say, I overeat and I done got too fat. You gotta be straight, just like someone in AA. And then you need a time and action plan of what to do, what to clean out your refrigerator, your closet, your cabinet. What's your action going to be to change? One of my certifications is change management, and my first doctorate is in business process improvement. I took those concepts of business process improvement and change management and wrapped them into this book, because our lives is a business.
Yes, yes.
And just as serious as organizations are about what they do, we have to have that same level of seriousness about our lives. So I wrote this in the context of, you are your business. You must put your action plan forward. And each chapter is about developing your business plan to get to a better overall state in life. And I even talk about when it comes to exercising, there are different ways that people do it. When I sent out that questionnaire, I got a bunch of answers back. And one of the things people said, oh God, I hate out there walking. Well, I wasn't a fan of it either, but I made it fun. I made 5 different trails, and I talk about developing walking trails so that you don't get bored with the action. And I actually took people on the walk with me of 2 or 3 of the trails so that they could see exactly what I meant. So it's like clothes. You got multiple shirts. That way you don't get tired of the same shirt. The trails are the same way. And it then gets into, someone said, I don't understand. I can lose the weight, then my clothes start getting too big. Then I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. Then I end up putting the weight back on. I cover that too. And then I cover, what do you do when your clothes start to get too big? I even talk about when you recognize certain fits, those fits are telling you that they're too big and what you need to do from there. So the key was to cover it in full change management fashion. I opened the book up talking about change, because just as organizations change, we have to look at ourselves in terms of change too. And how are we going to evolve? The same way the organizations write a 3 to 5 year plan, we have to write that 3 to 5 year plan too. And one of the pieces from this book I'm talking about is weight management.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was gonna let you finish. I was into it, but I got a lot to respond. First of all, I'm glad you wrote it in a series because one of the things you mentioned was the other book is I Can, and the name of the book is partial. The name of the book is I Can, and one of the things you talked about was the fact of how mentally the biggest battle is mental and what other people are saying to you. Before I get to my question, I'm going to tell you a quick little story. So, for instance, I was going through my weight loss journey. This is about 6, 7 years ago, and I was starting to lose weight. I was losing a lot of weight. So I remember one day I was in the office, and someone came to me and was like, "Wow, your clothes are slimming on you. You're starting to waste away." So similar to what you said, so what that I did, I started looking at that, and I felt so self-conscious about it. I said, "Okay, well now I'm going to revert back to my previous way of doing things and start eating again because I was like, maybe I am getting too small. I look funny." And one of the conversations I had with my son because he's into looking at his body and trying to work out and stuff. I said, listen, be comfortable with yourself. First thing is be comfortable with yourself. Not what anybody else thinks about you, not what anybody else feel about you. I said, one thing I had to learn, be comfortable with who you are and get
Yes.
to a place where you're comfortable with, not what every society, your friends, the people in school think you are. And that's just the story I just wanted to add to this. But one of the things I want to talk about, the mental capacity of it, because we have a lot to cover what you said. You just gave us a lot of information. I was just into it. I'm talking about I was into it. But one of the things you said, the mental component, the component of other people who are talking, tearing in your ears, and you talked about actually admitting to having addiction. One of the hardest parts of, hold on, before I get to that, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump around a little bit. Before that, but I want to go back to the doctor. I'm sorry. What the doctor said, the doctor was talking about the importance of you writing a book. I just want to say I agree, Dr. Burton, because when you look at weight loss, when you look at commercials, you see things, everybody's offering you this magical pill that'll help you lose weight, and it doesn't work that way. And I know you know it doesn't work that way. And I constantly tell people it's not going to work. You're going to need to change your diet. You're going to need to exercise. You're going to have mental discipline to change things, and you're going to have to block people out because segueing back to what I was going to ask you about was the information of having people around you who are encouraging you, go ahead, eat that extra piece of cheesecake. You deserve it. You've been doing good. You deserve it. And that's the negative influence that you have to break out in your life. But how do you, and I'm asking you, how do you, as a person who's on this weight loss journey and transforming their body, how do you block out the noise from the outside, the people who are trying to encourage you to eat that extra piece of cheesecake? You can have that soda. It's okay. How do you block out that noise?
So one of the things I recommend, the book is not just a book, it's a workbook.
Mm,
So I am still working with some people to say, now that you purchased it, we need to start at chapter 1.
mm,
And at the back, there are note pages. That's where you write your plan. So when you get to the section that talks about negative influences, that's when you prepare your plan of when somebody says, eat the wrong thing or drink the wrong thing, document your reaction. Because that's like putting together a project plan. So you document what you're going to do. So one of the things I first started with, if they say, try a piece of cheesecake, I would say, I'll get it from the Skinnylicious menu. It's about half the calories.
right, right.
From there, I begin to build up where I might not necessarily even want it from that menu each time. I might just decide to get some tea with a flavor.
Mm,
But you first got to document what you're going to do. Because it's
mm,
hard to say, I'm not going to do anything. But if they say, try this, look to see if there's an option that has 50% less on the calories.
mm.
After you practice that, then start cutting that back. What I eventually did, I picked one day a week that I could have a slice of something. And it had to be a slice, not my old fashioned slice that was as wide as my cell phone. It had to be
What you
a
mean?
slice about a fourth of the cell phone, okay?
Right, right, yes.
but I'm just telling the truth.
I'm with
So
you, but look, I probably do the same thing. Like, okay, I'm just gonna take a slice, but my slice end up being about this big, a little big. But it's just a slice.
exactly. But these are the things you want to write down. What are your actions going to be? So when you get to that section, I want you to write that down. This is what I'm doing today.
Mhm.
How am I going to change? In every 2 to 3 months, what will my change be? And you make yourself accountable by going back to read your change. Then I call it, you get yourself a team of people who believe that you can do it and will hold you accountable.
Mm.
Also, you have to hold yourself accountable. So if you are out and they see you looking at the non-skinnylicious menu and they give you a little wink, all you need to do is smile and go to the right side of the menu.
Exactly. Stay away
And
from the high calorie side. Exactly.
yes, so allow your team to help you and get someone at work, at school, at church, in your social group, in your groups. See, can you find someone to help you remain accountable? If in your social group you're having a luncheon and they come over and say, that celery sure was good,
Hmm.
while you got a plate of potato chips, put the potato chips down and smile
There
because
you go.
they are there to help you.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so this is a part of writing a time and action plan, which is in the book, getting people to help you remain accountable for your actions. Read and reread, read and reread. Every time you read, you learn something new. It reminds me of the picture, The Untouchables. I've probably
Hmm.
seen it 15 times, but every time I see something new that I did not see the last time. So I can go watch it again.
Hold on, Dr. Bird. I gotta stop you right there. I want you to say that one more time because I need to play this. I'm gonna cut this clip and play it for my wife because that's what I do. And I always tell her this. She's like, "You're just so into it." She watched that movie 20 times. I'm like, every time I watch something, I'm into it because I'm learning something new every time. I said that's why if I'm looking or reading something, I'm so intensely looking because I might have watched it and could repeat line by line everything about it, but I'm learning something new and I'm picking up something that I didn't the next last time. So I just need you to repeat that one more time, just for personal sake here.
Right. So each time I will watch a movie over, I will read a book over. Each time I see something or I understand something better than I did the last time. It doesn't matter if it's 10, 15 times.
Mhm.
That look is helping you build a knowledge base that you can use and apply somewhere else. So,
Absolutely.
I'm encouraging you when you get the book or any other book that's supposed to help you advance, read it more than once. It's not about picking it up one time. You'll never get everything in it. If that book's got 20 chapters, that's telling you need to probably read it at least that many times, because by the time you get from chapter 1 to chapter 20, you're not going to remember everything in chapter 1. If this is a book that's about helping you improve your knowledge, skills, and capability, go back and revisit it. Even when you think you have gotten to your goal, how
Mhm.
many times have you seen people say, "Oh, I lost XYZ weight and I gained it back"? Oprah would have shows on. I remember when she lost 100 pounds and she pulled the wagon out, showing what that looked like.
Mhm.
Today, she'll tell you it was an action, but she had not mentally got involved with what that meant. Today, she is now mentally involved. So now her actions can match her attitude, and
Mhm.
she doesn't have to worry about putting the weight right back on. So the reading and the rereading allows you to focus on change. This
Mhm.
is how, when I teach change management, it's all about developing a plan, and that plan has to have a sustainability factor. So it's the same thing with weight. When you're putting the plan in, you're documenting things that's going to help you maintain and keep that sustainability factor. So I'm never going to go back to eating that slice of cake the size of my cell phone. And I did used to have it that size too.
Me too. Me too.
But you're not going to do that anymore. Your plan and your change is building stability to help you maintain that new healthy posture that your doctors are trying to get you to. And as we know, everything is about sustainment. So to
Mhm.
sustain ourselves, we got to take a inward look to say, what is it I need to change there, and to be the best that we can be, the same way we do on the job.
Absolutely. So, just for clarity, because I want to make sure I'm clear on exactly what you're telling me here. So, you're telling me when I read Overeating, my shift to reflective actions, generating positive results. When I read this book, if I pick up this book that's available on Amazon, and you're going to tell us where else it's available at, I'm sure. Why I pick up that book and I read through that whole book, I make my journal. You're telling me to read that book again. When I read that chapter, you telling me read that chapter again. You're telling me to like I digest that cheesecake, that food off the menu. You're telling me make sure I'm digesting this book and the words of this book, the knowledge and inspiration, the plan that you're giving me in this book. You're telling me to digest this, to read it multiple times, to make sure I get everything and I make sure I get every piece, every morsel, like you get every morsel off that plate that crumb from that biscuit that was really good, everything off that plate. Make sure I get every morsel from this book so that I can truly make the positive change within myself and lose the weight. Not just lose the weight that's inside me, but lose the mental weight that's been holding me down as well. Is that what you're telling me right now, Dr. Burton?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. We're going to start at chapter 1. We're going to read it. You may need to reread it. Then get a pencil. I recommend a pencil, not a pen. And in that note section, you're going to write down how this relates to you, not
Mm,
anybody else, but this is your time and action plan.
yes,
And
yes.
you're going to sit down and say, okay, this is me. So in my business process, when I'm doing consulting for that, you write your current state. What am I doing today?
Mm,
And then your future state. What do I need to be doing tomorrow? So today I'm eating the cake the size of my phone. I know that in the future I want to get to a fourth of that, but that's not going to happen tomorrow. That probably won't happen in 30 days. So instead of eating the full width of the cell phone, I'm going to start at 3/4 widths of the phone.
mm,
And for 3 months, I am going to work that. But then in the second quarter, I got to go to half the width of the phone. And I got to, if I got to reread, I got to think about, I got to talk about when I'm reading, when I'm eating, what I have to keep in mind is, uh, did I eat something healthy before I ate that? Did I eat some cabbage or some broccoli or some greens or a salad before I ate that? Or did I just fill my stomach up with that piece of cake that I know is not what I need? Did I put something healthy? Did I drink 20 ounces of water? Then I won't even want a full cell phone piece of cake.
absolutely. Yes. So Dr. Burton, I'm sorry, Dr. Burton, one of the things that I'm hearing throughout this entire interview, and we're starting to use this word commitment a lot. Commitment is something that's very important. What you're telling us is into the losing weight process. Another word that you said I love is accountability, because that's very important. Even when you don't have other people around you to encourage you to keep you in line, I love the fact that you point out that we must be accountable for ourselves. So, for instance, when you're out with your friends, your team, and they're able to remind you, hey, don't order off that menu, order off this low calorie menu to keep on task with your goals, with what you're trying to accomplish. It's important that we keep that accountability even when we're home. When you're home, like you said, we're going to keep, going back to the cheesecake for a second here, and you usually get the cell phone size cheesecake. You have to have that accountability in yourself to say, hey, I'm going to cut it down. I'm going to cut it down and go a little smaller. Now, I think something that you said, well, I believe something that you said is very important. You just said, you spoke about this is not going to be a transition that happens overnight, 30 days. This is a process. I think that's a lot of times what people miss. And it's interesting that you use the word business. I know that you have the degree in business management, and I can see how you're tying all together. And as I said, people, I'm the perfect person here today to educate you guys, to teach you about this. But like you said with business, okay? Um, sorry, I lost my train of thought real quick. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get back to it. You talked about how we have to be accountable with this, and you talked about how business, how we need to manage what we're trying to do, our expectations. A lot of times within business, what we do is we have these, and social media plays a huge part in this, where we have these aspirations where we want to go from a 0 to 100 overnight. And we think that if I start the diet today, if I eat a salad today, by next week, I lost 100 pounds. I got the beach body. I'm ready to go to Miami. I'm ready to stay on South Beach. And you're telling me, and it's true, that's not accurate. And it's similar to business. Just because you started your new business today, don't mean you're going to be a size of Amazon next week. And I often say this on the show. You look at Disney, you look at the Amazons of these companies, you look at where they start to where they are. You look at Apple. Apple failed multiple times. They
Yes.
kicked Steve Jobs out of the company before they became this huge company. So it's similar in a way, and like you said, with business, with your weight loss journey, it's not overnight, and that's not to give you an excuse to make poor decisions. It's just a reminder to not get discouraged when you're not seeing the results that you want as quickly as you want, but to remain committed to getting those results. Remain committed to achieving your goals is what Dr. Burton is telling you. Again, people, there is no magic pill out here that's going to help you lose weight. I don't care what any doctor tell you, what any infomercial tell you, what any commercial you watch at 2 o'clock in the morning while you're eating that bag of chips and drinking that soda tell you that pill does not exist. There's only The only way you're going to truly lose this weight is by doing what Dr. Burton is saying, creating a plan, creating a journal, documenting your journey, what you're doing, holding yourself accountable, being
Yes.
committed to losing weight, having a team around you that's as equally as committed to you losing weight, that's equally as committed to being holding you accountable, and that cares enough about you that's going to say, no, put that down, pick up that celery, eat that apple. I know
Mhm.
you think you're hungry, but you're not. That's
Exactly.
what's going to change things. Dr. Burton, you shared so much about the book, and I want to ask you about something, okay? Staying on
Yes.
task, what we're talking about, because this is one of the things I talked about on my show. About a couple years ago, I did an episode called Sugar Addiction, where I explored how sugar has certain traits of what it targets certain parts of your brain and senses in your brain to cause you to think that you're hungry and to crave sugary items even though you don't want them. So for instance, you
Yes.
ate that candy bar, you're like, oh my gosh, I just got a craving for that candy bar. You're thinking it's a craving when really it's the sugar targeting that brain telling you, hey, eat another one. And even when you're full, that sugar is telling you, eat some more. No, you can eat more, eat more. I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about, first, I want to talk to you about sugar and the impacts that it has on weight. Then I want to talk to you about how, our eating has a negative impact, or negative eating has a negative effect on our attitude.
Yes.
So let's start with the sugar part. What's your perspective on sugar and the addiction that sugar causes with us gaining weight?
Okay. Well, let's go back to the old seventh grade biology class. Starch turned to sugar and sugar turned to fat.
Mm,
And that's why there are proportions of each food type that it is recommended that we eat. And a few years ago, here in the United States, we finally updated our portions. Up until a few years ago, we were still on the portions for when we were a farming country. Well, we have gone through the Industrial Revolution. We are now on the technology revolution. We're a city. Nobody is pulling mules and digging flower beds where they were burning that weight. We're a city. We started to gain. We became a bigger country. So today, even the FDA has changed the eating structure. There's something called My Plate, and it shows you what the portion sizes are that you should eat to help you pull back from that old way of thinking. In the book, there is a whole section that's dedicated to sugar. People think sugar is spelled S-U-G-A-R. Oh, there's at least 20 different ways to spell sugar. So when you get the book, you can look at the list, put that list in your cell phone. And when you go to the grocery store, turn over that can. If you see that word in the first 3 to 4 ingredients, that means that is the majority of what's in that. Put it back on the shelf. Okay, so it's important to learn what a sugar is and to learn what's a sneaking sugar. Now you wonder, what's a sneaking sugar? Well, let's talk about butter. You think, oh, well, butter is butter. Well, there is grass-fed butter. Well, the grass-fed cow and the corn-fed cows.
Okay.
When you're buying things like that, you want to look for grass-fed. You will find, and for anybody who's diabetic, and you don't have to be diabetic, but you can actually test it. I charge you to test it. Eat it with and eat that without. Know your number before, eat it, test it. You'll see if it's not grass-fed, it's going to cause your number to go up because it has a sugar base. So that's important. Let's talk about milk. I want everyone, if you have milk in your refrigerator, I want you to get up and I want you to go and turn that jar around. And I want you to look at how many grams of sugar is in that milk. You will be surprised as to what you see. I remember a long time ago, my father said to me, the closer to the cow, the better the milk. Now, from the time he joined the military until he passed at almost 90, he never put on more than 15 pounds. But he was very conscious of what he ate and his movements. But he kept saying, the closer to the cow, the better the milk. As I really got serious about this journey, and I started to turn it over, and I started to look, if it says regular milk, it's got so much sugar. If it says 2%, as it gets thinner, guess what? The amount of sugar increases.
Really?
And we think it says 1%, we're going to get that because it's better. But I challenge everybody to go get your card and turn it over and read what it says. Be in the grocery store, turn your regular around, the 2% around, the 1% around, and look at what it says the grams of sugar are. So these are things you have to focus on and pay attention to. There are certain cereals that came out, and they told you, oh, these cereals are wonderful. But when you turn that box around, it is 50% sugar. And for years, we thought we were eating something good for breakfast when all we were had the cereal 50% sugar, then we were throwing another 20 uh, grams of sugar from the milk, and then get into the sugar container and sprinkle by 3 more spoons on. Well, that wasn't the healthy option we thought that it was. So sugar has numerous names. Look at the book, it tells you all the different names of sugars. Make sure, take a picture, put it in your phone. So when you go to the store, you can look at the product you're going to get to say, is this in here? And is it in the first 3 or 4 ingredients? Your sweetener for your coffee. You might want to get something that has a low glycemic index that doesn't raise the sugar up. See, and I talk a lot about that in the book too. So it teaches you about how to think about sugar, what sugar will do to you, and how you can manage the amount of sugars. And manage it don't mean you don't have any at all. You instead of eating a cereal where the box is 50%, try something different. I learned to take uh, a scrambled egg, piece of bacon, and wrap it in lettuce.
Mm.
You notice I didn't even say wrap it in bread,
I
wrap it
know.
in lettuce. And what I would do weekly would buy a different type of lettuce, and it gives the whole sandwich a different flavor. When I went to get myself a hamburger at some of the places that cook them from scratch, I would say, wrap my sandwich in lettuce. I'm pulling the sugar proponent out because that bun's got sugar. So I pull the sugar proponent out and tell them to wrap it in lettuce. So there's a whole bunch of ways that you will find to understand what sugar is, why sugar is, and where to find it, because it's hiding in a whole lot of places that you don't even know it's hiding.
First of all, you just blow my mind with the milk. Okay, I'm serious. I'm not even joking right now. You really just blew my mind because I was under the impression that if I went to lower 2% milk, that I was eating healthier. I promise you, I believed that until this moment. Like, what the heck was I doing? And I actually switched my family from drinking regular milk to almond milk. Made that transition from that. But I'm just listen, I was expecting to learn from this episode and learn from you, Dr. Burton, but listen, you blew my mind with that one. That just, yeah, yeah, I didn't know that one. So thank you so much as always. You just gave me some information, and what Dr. Burton is talking about is accurate. One of the things, for instance, I hope my wife doesn't kill me for this. One of the things that happened was when she had was pregnant with our daughter. She had digestional, I think I'm saying right, diabetes. I think I might have said the word wrong, but so she had to cut back on, a lot of sugar products. So what she meant was we had to look at, everything we was buying, everything she was eating. So it made us pay a lot more attention and understand what had sugar in it, how much sugar was in it. When something said sugar free, was it actually sugar free? Because that's an illusion too. You think when you're picking up something, it says, "Oh, this is sugar free," and you assuming there's no sugar in there. Not true. There is still sugar even in items that says sugar free, but you have, like Dr. Burton said, you have to learn what you're reading, how to read it, because it's still hidden in there that there's sugar products. So one of the things I started doing from that was when I started buying things that I even buy, I started looking at like how much sugar content is this. And it surprised me. Like for instance, I was a huge fan of Dr. Pepper, and I'm looking, it was like 99% sugar in it. And I'm like, so I'm drinking, if I'm drinking a 2 liter not at one time, but just drinking it over that time, I'm drinking this bottle is full of sugar. And I'm just imagining it's like somebody poured a whole thing of sugar in this bottle, and this is what I'm drinking. And that's what it is. So, people, again, check out the book, Overeating My Shift to Reflective Actions Generating Positive Results. Pick up this book. There is immense amount of information and knowledge and wisdom that's going to help you change your diet. It's going to help you change your life, your perspective on what you're eating and how you're eating. This is not a scare tactic. This is information to help you change things, because I think we get confused a lot of times when we talk about eating and change your habits. A lot of people try to scare you away from eating things. This is not what Dr. Burton is doing. She's informing you, she's educating you, and she's inspiring you and giving you a plan to change your lifestyle for the betterment of you. She's reaching back and saying, hey, this is what I've done. I did all the hard work. I did all the heavy lifting. So all you have to do now is pick up the book, read it, digest it, create a plan, and you too can obtain a healthier lifestyle. But I'm going to get you out here because I know I got to let you go, Dr. Burton. I've held you up for a long time. I got two more questions that I'll let you go. First question I have to ask you about is one of the ones I just talked about before we talked about sugar,
Yeah.
was the effect that eating sugary items in some of these junk foods have on our attitude. One of the things I learned was with, some of the things I was eating, I was watching this weight loss show, and this guy, his wife was not fit and he was fit, and he started eating junk food. And it was changing things. And he noticed he was starting to be a lot more angry as kids, a lot more emotional. And he realized it was the food he was eating. The actual
Yes.
food was starting to affect his mental and affecting how his relationship with people. And I
Yes.
started realizing the same thing. Like, crap, it really does. Like, once I changed, I'm like, it really does. So I wanted to ask you about that. Your opinion on, do you believe that that's truth, or is that something that I
Oh
feel about?
no, it is definitely true. When you start eating these excessive amounts of sugars or starches, because starch turns to sugar, you definitely will see a whole change in your attitude, the way you feel. You'll feel sluggish, feel slow. In numerous cases, you go and you get that huge pasta lunch, and you notice how you get so sleepy because that starch is turned into sugar. The plate they give you is actually 4 to 5 servings. So you eat 4 to 5 servings of that instead of a small serving, which would be more like a cup. And you wonder, oh, why am I so tired and sleepy here at lunch? It's the effect of the food.
Hmm.
So it's important measuring sizes. There is nothing wrong. When I go to a restaurant now, I ask immediately, can you get me a to-go container? So, and I cut out what's one serving. I put the rest in the to-go container. That ensures that I'm not just sitting there talking, which I will do, and not paying attention to what I'm eating. I get it off my plate altogether. So
Mm,
that way I know what's there is what I'm intending to eat.
okay, that's smart. It's actually a smart strategy. I'm sorry, Dr. Brown. No, I was going to let you go into two more questions. I have one more, and then I'll
Oh,
get to my
that's
first
okay.
question. Okay, I'm sorry. I got one more question because you
That's
just
all
brought
right.
something up and reminded me of something with what you just said. You mentioned in, I don't know whether it was through our emails, through text, you talked about eating in front of like television and stuff. Like, for instance, we get our dinner and not sitting at a dining room table having
Mhm.
communications. We'll get our dinner and then we'll go sit in front of the television and we'll eat our dinner. Why is that a bad thing, sitting in front of a television
There's a
eating?
couple there's a couple of ways of looking at it. The very first problem is if you put too much, if the food is not measured,
Mhm.
you will sit there mindlessly watching whatever it is and eat it all. What I tell you is you can watch TV. It's no different than being at work and you got to go run and get your food and be in the next meeting and eating while you're in the meeting. Measure what's there. If you just have a your salad and a half a cup of rice or a starch, as long as the amount is correct, it doesn't matter where you eat it.
Okay.
But the key is only have that on the plate. If you run to get lunch, get the to go container and take the portion that's over the cup or the half a cup and put it in a separate container. That way, it's not even there to say, hey, I'm over here. Come over here and eat me. You done ate that over there already.
Mm, mm.
So it's the portion. So try it. If you get your salad, and here's the key, that dressing, turn that dressing over. And
Mhm.
but sit down because I don't want you to faint when you see how much sugar in the dressing.
Mhm.
So whatever your favorite dressing, you got to go to the store and turn those bottles over. If you like a honey mustard, you need to look at all the honey mustards, see how much sugar in each one. Or you learn to make them without without the sugar. But the key is know what it is that's in front of you. Know how much it is. Because if you're eating too much, it doesn't matter whether you're at the kitchen table eating it, in front of the TV, or outside. But if it's the right portion, you can eat it where you need to eat it. Portion control, portion control, portion control is a very important piece to this, and it'll talk about it in the book. Like I said, when I took every question somebody gave me and I turned it into a chapter. So there'll be certain chapters that will make you laugh, but you will go, I know that's right. But I want to add one last thing too.
Oh, sure.
In 2024, I am going to start to do workshops. So for anyone that I will do in workshops for the organizations, I will come to the home, do a workshop. You can invite people over. They have the book, and I will personally walk groups through how to get this done. I've lost well over 200 pounds. And people will say, I don't believe it. And then I pull out the picture and they go, wow. I said, I did what was in this book.
Mm. I was going to say it, but I didn't want to put your business out in the streets. I was going to say Dr. Burton lost over 200 pounds, but I was like, I ain't going to do that. I'm not going to do it. She's not going to smack me all the time. So why you put my business out there about how much pounds I lost? So I ain't going to do it. So, no, but yes, Dr. Burton definitely, mentioned she lost 200 pounds, and everything Dr. Burton said is accurate and does work. One more thing I want to point out to you, audience, is this: that when you go to a restaurant, fast food places, wherever you go out to eat, understand something, that what's on the menu is not always your only option. There are healthier options that are not displayed on menus or not displayed on the screen, but that you can ask for. For instance, Dr. Burton pointed out one important thing, or well, many important things, but one in particular. Dr. Burton said when she goes to a place where they make hamburgers from scratch, what did Dr. Burton say? She has her hamburger wrapped in lettuce, not in a bun. He said lettuce. So you can go to restaurants and request that they do that. It is an option. You can go to different places and you can ask for certain things that will stay committed and stay on task for your diet. So one of the things I want you to know, because I don't feel like this is put out enough, that just what you see on the menu is not the only options that they have at restaurants. You have to ask though, hey, about specialty menus, healthier options that they may provide you with. And you will be surprised that they actually do have healthier options that will help you keep on task with your diet, with your weight loss goals. But you have to open your mouth and say something. What I always say to my children is, a closed mouth don't get fed. So if you want the information, you got to open your mouth and you have to say something. Don't just settle for whatever someone's giving you or whatever you see at face value. Dr. Burton, first I want to tell you thank you again for taking the time to sit down and talk to me, to educate me, to educate my audience. I'm humbled by your presence right now, and I'm honored to have you here. I have to ask you one more question, then I promise you I'm going to let you go. Okay? There's someone out here right now. There's a person out here right now, a young lady, young man that's out here right now, and they're struggling. They're struggling with trying to keep going. They're struggling with commitment. They're struggling with accountability, and they just haven't figured out how to get past that bump in the road to get themselves on task, to get to the next chapter of their life. I want to ask you, Dr. Burton, what advice would you give to a person who's at that crossroad right now, but need that extra push, that extra energy to get over that hump?
Okay, well, we're going to put it a couple of ways. So if we're talking weight, I've got all the steps in here. And you have to start at number one. You have to start at admitting it's a problem. And when someone mentions it, you can't get mad, because if you do, that meant you have not admitted it to yourself. So the first thing is to realize you are who you are. Just because I take these glasses off does not mean I can see.
Right.
I have to have them on. Okay. So you are who you are. And I give that as an example. I am a person with glasses. I have to say that. When I was growing up back in the day, they used to tease you and call you old four eyes when you had
Yeah.
glasses. But now they got all kinds of cute shapes. Folks who don't need them going out and get glasses now.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to admit it, just like we had to say, yeah, I'm all four eyes. I need these glasses. The same way I had to say with my weight. You then put on where you have become three of who you were. And that was
Mm-hmm.
the truth. You have to admit it. It don't matter what the problem is. Addiction is addiction is addiction. And that's what people don't realize. Overeating is, in man's eye, different from alcohol addiction. But at your doctor's office, you sitting 50, 100 pounds overweight, the problem is the same, because you're starting to break down your system. And you may not see it in your 30s, you may not see it in your 40s, but when them 50s start rolling in, all of a sudden your knees start hurting, your back start hurting. You got to go, oh, before you can get out the chair. It makes a difference. So the sooner you say, I'm getting this under control, it don't matter what the problem is. First, admit it. Then, as this book say, put yourself a time and action plan together to defeat it. I talk about the battle and the struggle in here. You're your own military. You got to put your plan together of how you are going to win and continue to win, because we don't want a little small scrimmage won. We want the whole thing won that'll carry us into the 80s, 90s, and maybe past 100. So it's about admitting and documenting. It doesn't matter what it is that you want to change. My certifications is change management, and I have a PhD, a DBA in business process improvement. Your body is your business.
Yes.
And you must have a documented time and action plan to make it work in all sectors. You can't at home do it and then go to the church or the organization meeting, and at home you eat a cup of spaghetti, but at the church or the organization you got 4 cups. It has to remain the same. Document it, practice it, exercise it, get your team together, chapter by chapter, write your plan, and it will help you get over whatever issue that is you need to get over. And again, I'll be doing seminars in 24, so feel free to reach out. We'll schedule a seminar, I'll get with the group up here, and we can make this work.
Yeah, if people want to book you for a speaking engagement, to book you for a seminar, to talk to you more and get more information about the book or other items you offer, how can they get in touch with you, Dr. Burton?
Right now, you can reach out to sharon.burton at slburton.com. About the end of the year, I'll have it set up on my website for 24, but you reach out to sharon.burton at slburton.com, and we can talk about getting together for some in-organization, in-home workshops and getting you started on a new road.
Absolutely. And we're going to put that in the description tab to make sure that's available. for all of you. Please go out and get the book right now. Overeating, My Shift to Reflective Actions, Generating Positive Results. Go pick up that book. It's out right now. Look out for a new book. Dr. Twinbee's Brown Memoir is coming next quarter, the first quarter of next year. Please be
Yes.
on the lookout for that book. Once again, I will be putting those books, putting out something to let you know that those books will be available, when they'll be available, as well as where you can purchase those books. So real quick, I know you can purchase Overeating, My Shift to Reflective Actions, Generating Positive Results off of Amazon. Where else can people pick up this book?
You can also go to lulu.com, which is the actual publisher. If you're in a different state, Books a Million, you can go to all of the major bookstore sites and order a copy. So all your major bookstores will have it.
You can also order a couple books. Like Dr. Bird was going to say, order a couple books. Christmas is around the corner. It will make the
Yes.
perfect gift for the holiday seasons. You know, we got Thanksgiving coming up. One of the main times people overeat, Christmas time. The main time people overeat. We got New Year's. The main time people talk about New Year's resolutions and wanting to
Yes.
change their lifestyle and their body. This is the perfect book for the holiday season. It's the perfect opportunity to pick up the book to make those changes that you deem that you want, which is necessary in your life. Dr. Burton, I want to thank you for your time. Once again, please go out and check this book. And oh, yeah, one more thing. Remember that this book is part of a series. So to get the full effect of this book, please get the other book. What's the name of the other book that's ahead of this one?
That book is transitioning to I Can from I Can.
There you have it, and pick up that book as well, so that you have the whole collection, that you have the whole series, so that you get the most out of this experience. And remember, people, don't read it once, don't read it twice, read it three, four, read it however many times it takes to you to digest this information. That you make sure this information works for you. Don't forget to create your plan, your journey, your goal, to create your team, to hold yourself accountable, to be able to commit to your weight loss goals, to commit to this possible change, and know that you can make the change in the positivity of changing your life and your lifestyle, people. And also remember one thing, that yes, overeating is an addiction, similar to drug addiction, alcohol addiction. And the first step, as they say in AA, is admitting that you have a problem. And admitting that you have a problem does not mean that you're putting yourself down, does not mean that you're telling yourself that you can't make the change. It's the first step you need to take to start that weight loss journey, to start that journey to have the positive impact and positive change on your life. And that's what it's all about, people. And that's what today's show about. Dr. Burton, thank you so much for joining the Past the Present podcast. I want you back on the show, okay? And I'm going to reach out back to you because I want to talk about diversity, and I want to do a whole show on diversity. So, Dr. Burton,
Okay.
you know I wore you down to get you on this one. So I'm going to be on you, Dr. Burton, to have you
All
back on.
right.
So thank you again for coming on. Thank you for giving us your time. Like I said, it's an honor to have you on. It's a privilege to know you and to get to know you more. Thank you for all the information you shared with me and my audience. I promise you, I learned a lot today. They say you learn something new every day. I definitely did, and I'm grateful for you being here. So until next time, people, I only got a few things left to say, y'all. Stay woke, stay focused. Most importantly, stay tuned. Peace.